Welcome to Spiritual Ambition, where we tune in to awaken our divine nature and explore the provocative inner force compelling us toward our fullest potential. If you've achieved external success but feel a deeper calling, if you're tired of dimming your light to fit in, and you know there's a more powerful way to live and lead and love, you're in the right place. Host Donna Bond is a best-selling author, modern-day high priestess, and catalyst for personal transformation. Together, we're birthing a new paradigm of loving leadership, integrating our humanity with divine wisdom as our individual awakening serves collective evolution. Here's your host of Spiritual Ambition, Donna Bond.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome back. It's lovely to have you. This is Spiritual Ambition. We are facilitating episode 14 today. We have a very special guest. Our show today is called The Sacred Foundation, How Inner Healing Becomes World Service. And we are going to have a beautiful chat with Reagan Thompson. And I'm so excited for you to just be in her energy field because she is so lovely and just emanates that beautiful radiance and that beautiful spiritual energy. So what can you expect from today's show? If your deepest healing journey could be not just your personal work, but your contribution to uplifting humanity, your participation in this great awakening that is happening all around us. Wouldn't that be amazing? Today, we're going to have a conversation about that and explore how you can understand better how your personal healing journey is your most profound contribution to humanity's oneness and connectedness, bridging the gap between your inner transformation and the service and the contribution that you can make to the world. So every single time you choose love over fear, or you choose presence over performance, or truth over conditioning, you're shifting the field. You're shifting the energetics. So consider that. And in every single moment, we have a choice. Sometimes we don't feel like we have a choice. We don't want to believe that we have a choice, but we always do. Jennifer Rose, hello. Kay Weezy, hello. Hi, Charlene, Melanie, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Naomi, hello. All right, well, we are going to call in the light as we always do. So if you are in a place where you can close your eyes for a moment, just placing your feet firmly on the ground and maybe just resting your hands in your lap, I'd like you to take a nice deep cleansing breath in through the nostrils and just sighing that out, letting go of anything that no longer serves you, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. This is our moment to just step out of the fray and step into our hearts, to step out of the doing and step into the being. Infinite universe, we call ourselves forward into your loving. We ask to be cleared, filled, surrounded, and protected with the clear white light of living love. We ask that any karma, negativity, or imbalance, any distress, discomfort, dis-ease, any constriction, contraction, false notion, old idea, limiting beliefs, any energy or vibrational frequency that is vibrating at anything less than the frequency of divine loving, we ask that all of that just now be lifted and transmuted, taken to the highest realms, light and sound, and dispersed back into the nothingness, into this space. We recognize grace, peace, light, love, joy, upliftment. We acknowledge and we welcome only those divine beings of light who love each one of us unconditionally, who work for the divine plan and who work for the light. We welcome only you into our sacred space here today. We ask for your support and assistance in bringing forward healing, revelation, and wisdom of the heart that will resonate most profoundly with each individual here for their highest good and the highest good of all concerned. We are so grateful for the opportunity to come together and do this work. And for this and more, we say thank you. So be it. Welcome. Welcome in, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, thank you so much for tuning in today. We have a very special show. We're going to have a gorgeous conversation with our beautiful guest, Reagan Thompson, who will be with us in just a few minutes. But I just want to pose an inquiry for you. Just contemplate, what if the healing work that you have done in private, the moments that you have chosen love over fear, the times when you have honored your own truth, even when it was uncomfortable or it felt scary, what if all of that has been quietly shifting the field of potentiality, the field of oneness that we all share? Think about those moments in your own life, those intentional moments where you knew you were making a choice to choose something different, to choose something higher. Well, we're going to welcome Reagan here in just a few moments, but first we're going to do our sacred circle of light. As you know, in each episode, our community comes together and we intentionally send our healing energy and divine love around the world to people and communities that need it the most, to anyone that you can think of who needs a little bit of upliftment, a little bit of inspiration, perhaps a little bit of encouragement, or some sacred love and light. Perhaps they'll never know about it consciously, but you can send in this moment your intentions for their healing and upliftment. So some names that have been submitted to Spiritual Ambition Sacred Light from our previous show include Celia, Bob, Fatma, Nadia's dad, David. If there's anybody that you would like to drop in the chat, any names, Aunt Gail, and anyone else, even if you don't feel like interacting with the chat, bring that person into your consciousness just now and place them in our sacred circle of light. Amanda, we include Paul, Celia, and just taking a moment and just sending the light up ahead for each of those individuals. And if there's anyone that you would like to include, you can visit spiritualambitionsacredlight.com and submit their name. Jennifer McCormick's sons, we include you as well. Mickey. Just feel that loveliness. Just feel that energy. What about sending some light to yourself, to your family, to your relationships, to your health, to your business? We include Mickey and Lauren, Brittany, Everest, Ocean, Gail. Thank you, everyone. All right. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Reagan Thompson, who serves as a compassionate spiritual teacher. And, I don't know Reagan. We actually have not met before today. And just being in her presence is truly a gift. And hearing the sound of her voice and receiving the beautiful transmission of love and light and spiritual energy that is just emanating from her is really gorgeous. So I'm so excited to welcome her here today. She's an intuitive, transformational healer, a divine I am transmission advanced practitioner, and she is devoted as a world service activist. Through her soul activating workshops, her transformative retreats, her inspiring speaking engagements, and her heartfelt guided sessions, Reagan creates sacred spaces where individuals can embark on a journey of healing their inner wounds, awakening their innate joy, and embracing life with an open heart. Our missions are so parallel. It really is my honor to welcome Reagan Thompson. Please join us.
Thank you for that introduction. Nice to be with you all. Hello.
Reagan. Hello. Thank you so much for being here today. It's lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.
So, Reagan, when you think back to your own journey and the very beginning of your healing journey, take us to the moment when you realized that the work that you were doing for yourself was really making that contribution to the whole.
Thanks for asking that. Great question. Gosh, it's been an extensive journey in this lifetime. And I do remember a long time ago, it feels like, there was a moment where I was doing so much healing work internally that, like many of us, that work began to kind of shed away the many layers that was kind of blocking my light from shining forth and through in a significant way. And once I started to do that kind of disciplined, significant work, I started to feel lighter, brighter. I call that kind of one of my many metamorphoses, moving into the butterfly. And that first one, I remember it was in my 20s. And I felt this extraordinary change happen where I felt very alive and very awake and very joyous. I realized that one of the greater gifts that I began to feel within myself that I was here to give was the ability to share joy and to be in joy. And so that started to be very obvious that as I was experiencing this kind of awakening early on, again, basically, I felt this magnetism that started to happen with people when they were around. They were feeling, I'd walk into a room and suddenly the room became joyous. And suddenly people would say, well, gosh, I feel so comfortable in your presence. I feel so much peace all of a sudden in my system. And it was not about really being, other than just being as I be, right? Just being in this place of authenticity that I felt myself at ease, at peace, feeling calm. And that started to feel as with others that they felt very joyful. They were like, wow, I feel so much joy. So the cool thing about that was that those folks usually had not maybe either begun their path or they were on it for a short time spiritually. and they felt, "Gosh, what is it that you're bringing? I'd like some of that." Like, and so someone would say, "Well, how do you pick up clients? How do you pick up situation, referrals or whatever this stuff is?" It was like just being in someone's presence started to be the way to do that because they were like, "Whatever you're holding, whatever I feel from you, I would like to experience that." And so I started to learn that my inner work at that moment was the most precious gift that I could give to anyone, because the more clear I'd become, the more, and I still stay on this path diligently, because the more clear I become, the more at ease I become, the more relaxed I am, the more that joy radiates, that light radiates. And then they're like, how do I get some of that? Like, what is it that you're up to? And so, yeah, the work started in the 20s. And then since then, I would say the deepening of the awakening experience has continued from there. Yeah.
Amazing. I have a whole list of questions prepared for you, but I probably won't get to any of them because now we're going to
We're gonna go.
bring through what's coming through. So many people are afraid to begin doing the inner work.
Mhm.
And, I have family members that don't want to do the inner work because we have these sort of preconceived ideas about what it even means to do the inner work. So, can you speak to this a little bit and perhaps help dispel any fears that people have? And, I know you talk about creating a sacred container, and I certainly understand the importance of that. But if you could speak a little bit about that as well, and like how that plays into doing the inner work.
Yeah, that's such a powerful question. It's a great question, especially right now on our planet, actually, because I mean, it's been a great question for a long time, but especially right now, there's a really powerful, awesome thing that's happening on our planet. There is definitely a tipping point of awakening that's occurring. So, what's happening is that there's more light coming into our planet and there's more access to light, higher light. And so, a lot of folks before, I would say, I completely understand that because we come from a long timeline of us not knowing how to process our energy. We're not getting an opportunity to, learn about our feelings and our chakras in school. They're not bringing into the educational system. So some of the most important priceless classes are not being not being celebrated and honored to be shared in class. I always say that we need a whole new, paradigm of learning, and I know that's up for an update in our system, one of the systems, which educational systems, and so meaning that it's understandable that someone might feel that the inner work from the past feels very arduous, could even be considered scary. It might be considered like, how many times have we been told that our pain is our greatest teacher? It's not been shared, and it actually is our greatest teacher, and it doesn't have to be forever. As we do our work, layers remove and the cobwebs are removed, and suddenly you're feeling like pain is not a problem. It's literally this discomfort. When we say inner work, sometimes we'll say, well, I don't want to do that because I'm going to have to access possibly something that's really uncomfortable within me. And then we're like, "Oh my god, I don't wanna feel that." Well, again, with the work that's happening right now on our planet, there's so much more divine support. There's so much more light that's being accessed, especially even within, a lot of the healer systems that other friends of mine, my own. It's like there's some sort of quantum transformational opportunity that's happening for people's systems where they can heal so much more rapidly and in a short amount of time. And that understanding of, our feelings, our emotions, the chakra centers, where that used to be kind of almost like shunned as being, what is that? Is that even real? And, maybe it's weird to even be thinking this way or feeling this way or looking into this thing called the chakras. Now you can walk down the street and you'll see a yoga studio, or you'll see a spiritual center, or you'll see another spiritual sanctuary where they're starting to talk about this stuff, and people are starting to explore their feelings. They're starting to feel their emotions, and that of which felt hard and arduous before, there's more of an awakening that's happening, more of a unified state of consciousness, a collective opening that's happening where when you're doing your work now, you can feel that support. You can feel that kind of deeper internal energy without having to go through these kind of tough doorways of like fighting yourself, like not wanting to feel the pain and not wanting to feel the feelings. That stuff is just temporary. And when we access it, it just comes and it goes. It just needs a temporary moment of attention. And I think people think that once they access that, they're going to be overwhelmed by it. They're going to not be able to like get out of it. They're going to, and again, we came from a timeline, our past timeline. We just left the dark ages recently. So, the Kali Yuga, I think, ended in March. So we have been in part of the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages for thousands of years. But our planet has just now shifted tremendously. So if someone was scared before, what we're trying to say is it's so understandable. And there is this new way forward that's happening where people are being able to say, hey, I'm ready to do my inner work. And suddenly there is a facilitator that shows up, or a teacher or a spiritual counselor, or whoever you choose, that's at your door that is there to truly help you. And you're going to be able to experience probably pretty accelerated growth and learning. And it's just different now. And that's a hard thing to explain to someone who maybe it's just getting going on the path. They'll be like, well, I don't even know the difference of what you're talking about. Well, what I can tell you is, even a short time ago, our experience with inner healing was not really that known. It was like, I remember I used to do conscious life expos a while back. I started my first conscious media company, 20 years ago. And I'd go to a conscious expos and they look at me like, what is this? I don't, what are you doing? I'm like, yes, our inner world creates our outer world. Energy is real. They're like, this is really cool, but I don't even know, I'm talking about just 20 years ago. Maybe it was probably more like 16, 17 years ago, but it was very different. And so there is a very different experience happening. So when we're accessing that inner, my son and the puppy we just got, when we are accessing our inner work now, yeah, there's this really new divine support that's available. So it's understandable that it felt scary before, but there is a really good thing happening right now to do our inner work. It's very supportive now.
Yeah. Have you had any experience in witnessing people having sort of spontaneous awakenings? Hello, everyone.
Tristan, you're on a podcast show today. You want to say hi?
Say hi to everybody at Spiritual Ambition.
He brought in our new puppy
Hi.
too, so that's exciting. Okay, his son is adorable. He's 11. Thank you, Tristan. All right, so go ahead and I'm sorry.
Well, I was just curious if you have had the experience of witnessing anyone having sort of like a spontaneous awakening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yes, I have experienced that. I've watched that within my own, like a couple people I work with. I've seen that with my own sister. I've saw these incredible moments of divine grace coming in and someone just instantaneously experience. It's almost like there is this attunement with spirit and the divine, and there's a timing, and somehow their karma and their soul journey lines up just so, and suddenly they are experiencing this great awakening instantaneously. And it really is the most beautiful thing. It's quite miraculous. And I've seen where, they've gone from straight up just depression and anxiety and just deep, just stress. And then suddenly, I'm getting a call and they've done some healing work and they've experienced some work, if not with me or just with prayer, just with meditation. And they are suddenly, and my sister is such a great example. She called me, she'd been struggling with depression for many years. And she said, you're not going to believe this. I woke up this morning and it's all gone. Like it's completely gone. And I need you to come and see what's going on here. And I was like, okay, well, I flew out to see her. She was living in Portland at the time. And a whole life of depression, I mean, completely obliterated overnight. And she had been praying. She had a very close connection to the divine. For her, it was God. And she'd been saying, for years, please help me. I'm ready to just let this go. And then one morning she woke up and she was so joyful. She was so alive. She was cooking. She was moving. She was dancing. She was laughing. And from then on, she's been awake since. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was.
It's so beautiful to hear that. And I too have witnessed many of my clients,
Yeah.
in a similar situation. And it's amazing. So we can't really talk about this subject of doing your individual work and making a contribution to the whole without talking about the whole and talking about oneness and talking about connectedness. And so, the scientist in me wants to understand a little bit about how does all that work, right? When I'm alone in my bedroom and I'm working my process and I'm working through a trigger, and then I have like an awareness and I take responsibility for that, and then feel this shift of that heavier, denser energy or that frequency sort of lift and clear. How is that making the world a better place to live?
Well, we are light beings. I mean, we are literally made up of light. Some people have forgotten that. I think that's one of the main reasons why we're on this planet, honestly, this lifetime, to remind people. I'm a soul activation teacher, I'm a soul journey teacher. I help people connect to the deepest part of themselves, that is the truth of who they are, as the core of their essence. So remembering to remember their truth and of their divinity, their experience of this life is one of many. And we are basically a divine amalgamation of everything we've ever been and everything we'll ever be and everything we are now, collapsing into this holy, holy moment. So we are literally a fractal of the divine. We are a emanation of spirit. We are, and I say we, and we speak in we because I'm speaking from spirit right now, and I'm speaking from my own, beautiful spirit team as we speak here. So the we of which we are is really unified consciousness, right? So we start to get into this. So I'm an I, and I'm a I that has this thing, and I do this, and I have to have this, and I've got this story, and I have my mother, and I've got my sister, and I'm a wife, and I'm a mother, and right? The identity. And that I, which is more personality based, often gets wrapped up in itself and it doesn't remember the whole. So the cool thing about healing work and this inner work that we're doing, and whatever ways we choose, it starts to shed away those layers of identity. It starts to shed away the forgetting of the truth, which is that you are just simply a part of this divine tapestry of many souls here, right? Interwoven tapestry. And each one of us have this incredible divine expression that's coming through us. So each one is important, and every little piece of that tapestry is essential. And so, it's this cool knowing that, if you're in an incarnated state, if you're in a body right now, you've chosen to be in that body right now. And you have got a soul that has said yes to being in this body right now. And it's because of some really beautiful soul lessons, most likely, that actually are here to be embodied. And therefore, those lessons of which you might have, or your friend has, or your mother has, or your sister has, it's like it's all a part of each other. It's like, as you know, when we're in these relationships, they can be challenging, but they're also a mirroring reflection. We're experiencing relationship, and we're experiencing life as almost like a human experience of learning about ourself, and any kind of anything we came in to learn about, like before we even came into a body, right? So there's this really cool thing happening where the personal meets up with the global within what we're talking about. Our individual work, our personal work, our personality, meeting up with, as we clear that out, we start to awaken. We start to awaken to this wholeness. I know. I'm like, oh my God, that puppy's so cute. I mean, I just got her yesterday.
You did?
I just yesterday, so I'm just like completely in love with her. So she's a golden doodle, and I'm like, I can't even handle how cute she is. So
We're gonna bring her on. We're gonna bring her on in a
I
few
know.
minutes. But keep going, keep
on.
going. This is so important.
I know she's on, and again, I mean, I could bring her in just to the conversation because, it's like I knew even when I brought her into my life recently that that was a divine orchestration. I didn't just go, I'm going to get a puppy. I was like, I was being guided because I knew this puppy was going to teach me more about myself and more about like the love and like about, how much do our animals just like, I mean, I have had such a sacred experience with dogs. I absolutely love dogs. And we have a few dogs right now. So, I've got a lot of creatures. I have children. I think that, my soul said, hey, I'm going to wear all these different hats. I'm going to experience love through these different relationships, through these creatures. And that's just been something that my soul signed up for. And every soul's different. But I can tell you that what I've understood about that whole crucible of choosing to be in that kind of nurturing, kind of mother of all mothers energy that could possibly be, that has awoken my system into the connection to Mother Earth and my connection to the whole of humanity, because I can feel my heart, is required to like, experience high levels of patience and tolerance and resilience and the dissolve of any of, I and me, because as you know, in a selfless experience of being with children and creatures, you're like, well, it's not really about me today, is it? So, I I know, baby. She's so
And what
cute.
is the name of this sweet one?
Oh, her name right now we're working on, but so far what's sticking is Angel.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well, she's just really bringing in the sweetness and the playfulness and the lightness.
I know,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, of course.
Unexpected
And
guest. And my
Tristan in the background. So
Well, I mean, like I said, it's the energy of this, the work that's happening in me, especially right now. Like it really is. It's this, I've had a big shift recently in the realm of what we're even talking about. Like it's a constant evolution, it's a deeper dive into like another, I don't know, my heart even opening more, like this unconditional love that has been my greatest lesson in this life. So yeah, I feel this work is so powerful because when we do our inner work and we clear out that kind of I stuff, we begin to really experience life in a whole new way. We expect to
yeah.
experience life as this really cool, um, like everything's happening for you. Everything's, it's not against you. And even like the challenge with your child or even the puppy peeing on the floor or whatever, you're just like, oh, how do I respond to that? So it's all this kind of learning ground for deeper expansion and connection to the whole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Mystical Wizard of Christ agrees with you when you were talking about
Yeah.
doing the healing work. She says, or he says, the heart rate picks up when a deep connection happens. Uh, it's like a never-ending honeymoon and
I love
flow.
that.
Yes, yes, I love that too.
Yeah, I totally hear
So
that.
you've mentioned a couple of times in your shares here about shedding away the layers.
Yep.
So talk us through that. If I am going to have a healing experience with you and we're going to shed away some layers,
Mhm.
what's really happening? And why is that an important part of the process?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So, like we were saying, we are this wonderful amalgamation of kind of all of our past until we're not. So, someone was say, I don't think that's so wonderful. I don't really want to have my past associated with my system sometimes, right? But the truth is we are both an amalgamation of all the wonderful processing and clearing that we have done, that has led to some of those higher qualities, such as like we were talking about resilience or tolerance or patience. You know, but we're also an amalgamation of any of our unprocessed, unresolved material. So that would be any of your fears, any of your worries, any of your doubts, any of your insecurities, any of your attachments, any of your aversions, any of your limiting beliefs. You name it. Any of that stuff that can feel dense in the system, that feels like it has a little weight to it, and it pulls you out of your heart. It pulls you out of your center. You suddenly feel a little stressed. You suddenly feel like it's difficult to respond to life. More so, you might be reacting to life in some way. And just kind of feeling like your whole center is getting rocked enough that you're not feeling so peaceful. So that of which feels like just a bunch of whatever, right? People are like, well, sometimes it happens. Well, that can be cleared out. That can be cleared out so that whenever the world does happen, you start to experience a high level of ability to not react and rather respond. So that response can come in a peaceful way to something you normally would be very reactive to, which is amazing. So when we do work internally, what we're doing is we're beginning to peel away any of those layers, right? And whatever comes up, comes up. You know, we're an inner child specialist as well. I do a lot of inner child work. I do a lot of forgiveness work. I do a lot of rewiring of the subconscious through planetary grid work and the Christ consciousness energy, just really working with light and white light energy specifically. You know, really bringing in light. When we say light, meaning bringing in whatever some part of ourself needs. So when we talk about parts, we're talking about non-integrated fragmentation of ourself. Sometimes we'll have a child part that's still existing when we're a baby within us. That's like, I didn't get the emotional attention or affection or love that I needed. So we can have a part of ourself that's still sitting in the past within us that's waiting to get that still. And when that comes in, when they start to, it's amazing. Like inner child work is so beautiful, especially when you're connecting with, you know, spirit and you're feeling, you know, connection to your soul online. There's a way to process where you really feel that divine connection as you're working with any part of yourself. And that's one of the wonderful, I think, gifts or blessings that passes through my system when I work with someone is that they begin to feel very held and supported by their own system and from spirit and from the divine and from creation. And as that light meets up in your system with any of this non-integrated, fragmented self-work, that of which is maybe some part of yourself still needs a whole lot of compassion. So, you know, you'll feel that infusing into the center of that part inside that pain. And again, I have many modalities that I bring forth, but it's really whatever's, you know, what to meet someone's system and rapport with what they need in that moment. And so when the light meets up with any density in the system, it is almost instantaneously healed and removed. And so that layer, right? That layer of whatever's coming up, right? The session or the healing experience will show that to you. You might say, gosh, I was really feeling stressed lately. And what I've been really feeling is a lot of fear. I've been in fear that I'm not enough. And so we can go in through that doorway. That's a layer. And you never know. You might heal in a one experience a whole chunk of that. You know, suddenly you've given some part of yourself that's been hanging on to this limiting belief that you're not good enough and this judgment for your whole life. And suddenly that light enters into that space where that density is within yourself and it is literally dissolved rapidly. Like, right, like instantaneously. And suddenly you're like crying and you're emoting and you're feeling like, what is happening right now? This is like I was 3. And it's like, and then the little girl inside you saying, I just didn't know that I was good enough. I'm ready to let this go. Like, this is just a very brief example, but it's amazing what happens when, again, truth, when the light of truth, which is what the light really is based in, truth meets up with the illusion of which is the separation within, right? And it lands in that density which does not exist in truth. I mean, is it true that any of us could ever not be good enough or not worthy when we are literally fractals of the one? When we are literally a divine emanation of creation? Right? Like when that's the key here is that, you know, those layers especially get shed when both truth is met in the system against the illusion, you know, infused into the illusion, as well as the understanding that comes from like, ah, wow, like I didn't even understand that this is what I was holding. Like there's something really powerful to kind of like start to understand yourself, right? So
Yeah.
that light work, that healing work, it meets up with some layer of yourself. And it's like, oh, now I can let this go. I just didn't understand. There was an illusion here. There was a misperception. There was a confusion. And as that gets cleared up and that light enters into the space, it's like an instantaneous dissolve.
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. How do we bring our stories to completion? I know you have a class coming up, I believe, that is something about letting go of stories. So if you want to share a little bit about that, that would be awesome. But I'm, in all seriousness, this is especially when someone goes through something traumatic or dramatic, and we're holding on to something that we just can't let go of. And that story continues to shape our experience. It continues to act as a lens that we are looking through. How do we break free of that?
Yeah, gosh, that's been such a really big topic. There's these themes or topics that come forth, I feel like, from spirit over the course of every month these days, and it's rapid. And that has been a big topic. It's been this we've been very attached to our stories for a long time, and we've learned through them, and that's all good. But I feel that there's something new happening on our planet right now, and we're being asked to begin to non-attach to our stories. It's not about negating the feelings of what the stories provide us, our experience of whatever our story has been. We've all got a story. It's about instantaneously starting to be willing to surrender our story over to spirit, over to creation, as if we're not attached to it anymore. And that we're willing to do the work within it and go, what is that? What has that really been about, really? Like, what it's not about like saying, I am this person who had this thing happen, and then it's like, okay, but what has really your story been for? Like, what are the lessons encoded inside of it? Like,
What are the lessons encoded inside it? I want to
yeah,
repeat that because it's
yeah,
such a great question for our viewers, our listeners.
yeah.
What are the lessons that have been encoded inside of your story? Yeah. What's the
Yeah.
invitation for
Yes.
learning from that story? Okay. Sorry. I just get excited forgive me for interrupting you.
No, gosh, feel free to be as excited, please. Yeah, it is exciting because, gosh, the evolution of getting to not be attached to our story anymore and actually just bask in the learning of what that it was for, and then you're free to create more. It's not like you can't say, "Wow, in the past I experienced this," and you're not attached to it though. You've learned the lessons through that experience. So now you're like really not attached to it because it's not really who you are anymore, right? It was like something that happened and you're like, well, I can share now my story. In fact, I used to share my story very early on. I remember feeling very attached to what I was sharing. So I was feeling very emotional when I was sharing it. I felt like I was in the story still. I'm sure you've heard the expression of no mud, no lotus. Right. So if no one's heard that one before, it's a powerful expression that basically, as within the process of healing, we're kind of in the mud. And as we're like healing in this mud, right, with our families and our parental dynamics and our energy and our work that we're doing, family dynamics, whatever it is that you're healing through, you're kind of in the mud. But as it heals, you become this amazing lotus that's no longer in the mud. And it's amazing. Lotuses grow out of mud. I mean, it's these incredible flowers, right? So it's both
Yeah.
symbolic and it's literal. And so I'm saying that because in the last years, I started to realize I was no longer teaching while in the mud. I was starting to share my story again, but I was sharing from the lotus. And so that therefore I could feel myself like looking at my story and sharing it, but not being attached, not feeling like pulled into it. I wasn't feeling like, oh my God, I'm sharing with you cathartically because I'm still trying to heal it. I was sharing it out loud to try to heal it. And then as it actually has healed, now I share it as being like hopefully people can feel, if I can heal this, so shall you. Because I really have, and it took me a long time and it took a lot of work. And that was because, again, it was at a time frame that I believe we were in that's changed now, that it was a little bit more arduous. There was less, understanding of it. There was more looping. I was doing a lot of more mind kind of looping. I was doing the best I could, but I tried all kinds of healing modalities. I think I looped my story that more than I needed to. It taught me to be here now, though, with you, to help people no longer have to do that. So I think there's a way to more rapidly, first off, accept your story, right? Like,
Ooh,
not be like, oh, no, that's not my story. I don't like my story. I'll just tell you my story, but I don't like it. Really be like, that was my story. It was my story. It's not who I am now. And I am willing to non-attach to it, spirit, guides, universe, however you like to speak. And I'm willing to do the work to learn the lessons that are encoded within it. And that can be rapid because when we
yes.
accept it, when we actually accept it, which is usually
Yes.
the hardest part,
Yes.
um, it's like it can rapidly begin to heal, and I think people get looped in their story because they're like, no, that's painful. I can't accept what happened. It's like, or could you just go, you know what? Yeah, it did happen.
Yeah.
It did happen. I'm
It just
gonna,
so resonates with me as you're sharing it. I had a really challenging, like, last 12 months. And the biggest part of it, I keep finding myself saying over and over again, I can't believe that this happened.
yeah.
And it's that lack of acceptance right there that will take
Mhm.
me back into the pain of it.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
spiritual bypassing.
Hmm.
How do we know that we're really doing the inner work as opposed to getting into spiritual bypassing?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. Thank you for asking that question. Um, so spiritual bypassing can pretty much know that it's happening when we are wanting to feel good. A lot of people
Wanting to
are like,
feel good.
yeah, wanting to feel good. You're like, oh, I like the spiritual practices that make me feel good. But the one that makes me feel like I've got to really dive into something that's uncomfortable, it can feel really, it could feel like we just need to kind of like feel just the good stuff and then bypass what doesn't feel good. And people can do that spiritually. Like, one of the primary spaces and places I like to help folks with is the healing of the spiritualized ego. People are like, what's that? It's just the ego, right?
What's
No,
that?
there's
Tell us, Reagan. Tell us what
okay.
that is.
Well, it's been a huge journey to witness it and be aware of it and to clear out my own system and to help others with it. So happy to. Um, Spiritualized ego is the ego that's, we have this mechanism that's been inserted in humanity a long time ago. My understanding of the ego itself is really a mechanism that's actually really a positive thing. It's here to help us master love, to ensure it, in fact, like a video game. You're like, well, today I'm being taunted and told that I'm not good enough and I should do better and I should fear this. And, all the shoulds, all the have tos, all the supposed tos, all the need tos. You can be sure that's pretty much ego. And then it's kind of like you're having this little voice in your head going, you need to do that. And what are you doing? And, you're like, what? Who is speaking to me right now? So we're bringing in a little bit of comedy, but there's also an ego process that is very spiritualized, meaning, thanks, sweetie. There's a spiritualized process where the ego itself will actually utilize spiritual teachings as a way to glorify itself, to feel better, to be superior. And it often feels like there is an energy of spirituality that people don't like to hear this, especially egos. They're like, oh no, I am superior. I've done all these classes, I've done all these workshops, I've done 35 years of work. The actual spiritualized ego can latch on to that work and use it as a front instead of being able to like dive into those deeper layers of one's being. Sometimes what will happen with a spiritualized ego process, it means that someone maybe has done a lot of work and they've reached what's called a glass ceiling. So the ego can hide behind the glass ceiling. It's like it's not willing to take that next level, because if you're to catapult past, which really is the dissolve of the ego itself, the end of the identity, the movement into the soul, the embodiment of the soul, like this whole journey of evolution that takes time and it takes discipline. That powerful process of when you get to the place where you start to recognize that your spiritualized ego is on board, it's like the one that does not want to be seen for sure. It's the one that's like, I am superior to others because I've done a bunch of work. And I don't need that. And I don't need them. And I don't need those teachings. And in fact, my teachings are better than your teachings. And that stuff is tricky. It feels really like, it makes sense, right? I've done all this education. I've done all this work internally. And it's like, oh, well, I don't want her to know that there's now a part of her that's moved into a kind of a superior realm. And that superiority is, someone might view it as narcissism. Everybody seems to have a degree of it, right? Until we fully resolve it. But it is a way to kind of put a mask on. The ego will wear a spiritualized mask to, it's the one that I need to be like, I'm a really good person. I'm a really spiritual, good person. It's like, that that's there, especially if it's coming from an I statement. The soul doesn't speak like that. The soul speaks in non-I. It speaks not in a identity-based way. It doesn't speak in superiority. It speaks in oneness. It speaks in unity. It speaks in love. It's completely willing to grow and expand always. There's literally no limit to the soul's expansion process. It yearns for expansion. It does not feel better than anyone. It exists in humility and humbleness. It exists in compassion and purity. So yeah, it's an interesting process. It's a really good process. It's a humbling process. I certainly know when I started to see any spiritualized ego in my process, I remember feeling very embarrassed by it. I felt like I couldn't believe that I hadn't seen it. And I felt like the ego itself within me was dissolving as I saw it, because I was seeing it with love and compassion. And I was saying, there's nothing wrong. I just, my intention was good. Its intention was good. It was never a bad ego. It was just doing its job. And it was like, in order for me to exist, I'll do anything I need to do to exist.
Yeah.
And even if it means be a spiritualized, good ego.
Yeah.
So a lot of, and to say I do work with a lot of teachers and healers. Thank you. The dog is cute. And doing healing work for them. And this gets brought up a lot with healers. They're like, oh, I didn't see that. And I didn't know that. And I was like, it's all good. We're in this together.
Yeah.
We want to see this
We're in
stuff.
these human bodies together. We're in these human bodies together. And the universe will arrange for us to see it when it's our time to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a powerful question. Thank you for asking it. Yeah.
Yeah. And any other connection that you want to make to the spiritual bypassing?
So another connection would be that that it's supposedly comfortable to do that. It's a trick. I just want to say it out loud. It's a trap.
What do you mean? I don't get
it. Okay. Spiritual bypassing, I mean, let's just admit it. If somehow you've got some part of yourself, the ego itself, feeling good because it's not feeling the deeper pain in the system, a lot of our kind of more dense material hangs out more in the lower chakral areas, right below the belly button. And a lot of people are existing mostly up here. They like to hang out in the upper chakras. So a lot of our work we do is help to bring light all the way through the whole central channel, all through the body. And so when we start to get below the belly button, that's when we get into our kind of primal instinctual fear, our power struggle with ourself or others, the need to be better, feeling less than. We get into any kind of challenges around sensuality or sexuality or relationships. It's the stuff that people are like, oh, I don't know if I want to look at all that. So people can bypass by even being like an excellent meditator. They're like, I feel really good when I connect, the light, and I just feel so high. I feel so good. And they're just feeling really high. And then they're the folks who you've heard about that when they close the door, they're yelling at their dog. They're screaming at their employees. And you've heard this probably about some even in the higher level supposed teachers spiritually. At least I've heard stories. So, and then they're like, how is that possible? They're showing one thing on the screen. They're so loving. They're so kind. They seem so spiritual. They close the door and they're over there yelling at their parents and they're yelling at their friends and they're yelling at their employees and treating them poorly. So that means that they've bypassed the lower chakral area. They aren't really working with the foundation of their system. They're not working with that kind of stuff that really I can tell you the ego doesn't want you to look at, because if you start to heal that stuff, you're going to really start to transform. You're going to start to like lay a whole new spiritual foundation. And that most likely will be founded in a whole lot of love. That's pure love. Your relationships will start to heal. You'll start to experience, no more kind of fear about, where you're living and how much money you have. You're going to feel that the world is abundant. You're living in a prosperous reality. You'll start to feel maybe your sexuality, your creativity starts to become more on fire. So then that's kind of stuff begins to dissolve the ego. That's what actually starts to dissolve it. And it does not want that to happen. So it's like,
It does not want that to happen.
yeah, it wants you to hang out up here and just feel good and like live in, and like maybe just meditate, but don't feel that deeper pain. Just kind of like, feel good, have a good meditation. Right. It's sometimes people are bypassing when they don't realize it. And it's cool. Like it's not everybody's story. Some people are doing a great job pouring light all the way through their whole systems. They have no challenge with that. There's no severance between them and spirit. They feel extremely connected. They've never had a challenge with this, but there's those that have. And we
Yeah.
would say that's kind of what we're now talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely
Reagan,
needed to do
thank
that
you.
work. I definitely needed to do that work for sure initially.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And continue to do that work.
Yeah. I mean, you never know when another pocket of energy is going to rise and you're like, okay, here we
You
are.
never know when another
Yeah.
pocket of energy is going to arise.
Yeah. You never
Reagan,
know.
if someone wants to learn more about you and all the things that you're up to, how do they find more information about you?
Thank you. Well, let's see. A really beautiful way would be to, if you would like to continue on the journey with learning more about events or workshops or meditations we're offering or guided healing experiences, is to get to my website. It's reaganthompson.com. It's a Thompson, THOM, as you can see, without the P. A lot of people put that in there. It's a resource center. I mean, it's far more than just a website. It also shows, there will be a section on the website where you can sign up for my newsletter. And the newsletter provides every month ancient wisdom teachings that come out, channeled by spirit. And then as well, you're going to learn about any events or classes or workshops. I also do another meditation for the full moon monthly that you'll be given. I'm also an insight timer. I have an insight timer profile. That's another wonderful way. I've been adding quite a bit of content lately, and courses are on in
the
development.
field.
Yeah, in development. So, and then in the future, I'm looking to develop an online spiritual university. So I'm in that moment right now too. So.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. We have one more segment in our show, which is called the Celebration of Love's Alchemy.
Nice.
And the Celebration of Love's Alchemy is a gentle pause where we recognize the extraordinary magic that is woven through our everyday life. And every episode, we take just a moment of loving celebration for something that might seem ordinary or even contrary at first glance, but it holds within it a spark of brilliance as we remind ourselves why we chose to take a body and come here to human land. So it's everything from the sweetness to a juicy orange to the blessing of an emotional trigger. We turn our attention to the less obvious causes for celebration, and for the little things that we might take for granted. So through loving appreciation and gratitude, we uplift ourselves and our vibration with the power of love, sending ripples of good juju out and around the planet. As alchemists of upliftment, we're turning the seemingly mundane into marvels of magnificence, as we see the whole human experience as the alchemy to our wisdom. And so today, given everything that we've talked about, I chose to bring our love to the courage to feel, to the courage to feel. And, just as we started this show, and my first question to you was about, people who are afraid to do the work because we don't want to revisit some of this yucky, gunky, painful discomfort. And I'm sure you would attest to this. And I know in my own process, it is so necessary to release these packets of energy. And as you shared with us, Reagan, the spiritual light on the planet at this time has never been greater, has never been more helpful, has never been more supportive to speed up the process of healing, so that when we are willing to visit these uncomfortable places of discomfort, that spiritual light is meeting us and dissolving it. And then poof, like magic, we are brought back into the joy and the upliftment and the aliveness and the juiciness of why we chose to be here and to take a body. And to come to this life, to do our own work in creating and contributing to shaping the world that we want to be in. So here's to our emotions, to all of the feelings and the wide range of those feelings that we get to have. And, if we were all floating around in the etheric world, we wouldn't feel any of it. So what a blessing that we get to be in these bodies and have the full range of all of it, because we remember we've come for it all. Mm-hmm. I am Donna Bond. You are watching Spiritual Ambition. We are going to close our space just as we opened it. So just taking a couple of moments and in appreciation and gratitude for your life, for the work that you have done on the path, for your awareness, for your heart, for your courage. We are so grateful for the opportunity to come together, to explore these topics and subject matter. We have great appreciation for our beautiful guest, Reagan. We are now closing all energetic lines of communication between any of us, closing all open portals, gateways, channels, agreements, and lines of communication between either one of us and the spirit world, between any of our viewers or anyone who takes in watching the video later. We are grateful and we say thank you. We are now closing this session in love, as love, for love, by love, with love. So be it.